Hello everyone, I hope you are enjoying these honest stories. The tales I share are based on real events, and right now there are couples out there writing their own stories, taking actions they never imagined they would take, living what we call crazy, and giving themselves body and soul. If you pay attention, you will see that it is not just about pleasure. Often, circumstances such as heartbreak, sadness, loneliness, or feeling trapped in a relationship lead people to make impulsive decisions. Sometimes, a man or a woman does not know how to escape a situation and takes the wrong path to start a new journey. My name is Selena, and today I will tell you my personal story. I ask that you listen carefully and reserve judgment, because many others may go through something similar, and we should always be honest with ourselves. Before I begin, I want to mention that I have left an email in the description for those who would like to share their own story. Feel free to submit it anonymously, or you can change the names as you wish. Let's get started. I was a girl who grew up dreaming of a fairy tale romance, full of happy endings and promises of eternity. But life doesn't always follow the script of a movie, does it? Now, at 29, I'm a mother and a wife, but my life has been a roller coaster of ups and downs, unexpected twists and turns and surprises. As a teenager, I was fearless. I loved playing soccer with my friends and would even skip school by jumping out of windows to avoid classes. But despite all the fun, I always felt empty inside, like something was missing. I fell in love with Blake and we spent 5 years together. Unfortunately, I discovered that he was cheating on me with a classmate. We broke up, and after a failed attempt at reconciliation, I realized that the Prince Charming of love stories didn't exist. However, life had more surprises in store for me. As an adult, after being involved in a purely physical relationship, I became pregnant. To my dismay, the father was unsupportive, asked me to terminate the pregnancy, and the relationship ended because of the pregnancy. It was a painful experience, but from that pain came valuable lessons. My daughter became the most important part of my life. She was born in February 2017, when I was 20 years old. Everything that happened helped me grow from a girl to a woman. After her birth, I became unemployed, so I started looking for an internship. I was assigned to the customer service department of a large company, where I met Ryan. He was married, but his kindness and caring for people attracted me. I had never been in a relationship where I was treated the way Ryan treated others, and seeing the way he treated his wife affected me deeply. I couldn't stop thinking about him, imagining what it would be like if he treated me the same way. Slowly, I got closer to him. I pretended not to understand the things he taught me, just to sit behind him and enjoy smelling him. Ryan smells really good. I used to have a lot of fun because I would take a big sniff and he would look back and I would start laughing and sneezing and say, "Sorry, Mr. Ryan, it must be the weather." Until one day, without thinking much, I sent him a suggestive photo on WhatsApp. That was the spark that ignited a whirlwind romance. A forbidden, adrenaline-fueled, impossible-to-resist romance. Even though we knew it was wrong, we gave in to our passion, living our secret and intense moments at work. Every stolen glance, every forbidden touch deepened our connection. I remember joining the company at the end of the year. I had the crazy idea of sending the photo on my last day of work, and we went on vacation. Christmas came, New Year's, and I was anxious, dying to see him, and in my innocence that he would have forgotten. But to my surprise, he was just as anxious as I was. I remember him saying that I had embarrassed him, that he was wet thinking about what could have happened, and he didn't forget what happened for a minute. Believe it or not, it was crazy what we did and where we did it, almost every corner of the office. We avoided the customer service area because of the cameras and glass walls, but everywhere else was fair game. The bathroom, the training room, the kitchen, the hallway. It was one of the best years of my life, not only for the thrill of having such a unique and almost impossible experience, but because I had finally found someone like me. Ryan loved the adrenaline. He was fearless, and he shared my disdain for the modern notions of open relationships or partner swapping. What was mine, and Ryan felt the same way. I found myself praying to God, asking Ryan to leave his wife and be with me. Against all odds, my closest friends, who had also been involved with, they said that all men are the same, just looking for fun without commitment. They advised me to end it before I got too attached and got hurt. But my intuition told me otherwise. Every moment with Ryan reassured me that I wasn't just a fling to him. He was a man of principles, and I wasn't his toy. Ryan came from a complex family. His grandmother was evangelical, his father was Catholic, and his mother was spiritual. He grew up with knowledge of all three doctrines, which fascinated me, and I learned a lot from him. However, despite his broad understanding of faith, he was deeply attached to a strict religious belief that preached, "What God has joined together, let no man separate." In this view, a marriage, happy or not, was meant to last forever. I could see in Ryan's eyes how much he was hurting. He would tell me how his wife constantly complained about their relationship, how his daughter hated to see them argue, and how his marriage was falling apart before his eyes. One memory that has stuck with me is Ryan telling me about his fights. His wife would start an argument, and before he could respond, his 3-year-old daughter would pull him away, as if trying to protect him. He felt voiceless, unable to speak because if he did, the argument would escalate and only hurt his child. Ryan would come home, try to bring peace by cooking for his wife, and play soft bossa nova music. But instead of calming things down, his wife would scream, "Oh my God, I'm married to a demon. Turn that music off." Nothing he did was good enough. He wasn't present enough, wasn't romantic enough. His gestures, whether it was cooking, running errands late at night, or catering to her every whim, were never enough. When I met him, he was a shell of his former self, wallowing in depression because he felt trapped in a marriage his religion forbade him from ending. The church told him divorce was a sin, and his wife's parents were no better. A miserable marriage of convenience was their example of what a successful union should look like. Ryan was choking, could barely speak without fear of conflict, and his work was suffering because of it. But then our connection happened. I like to think I became a kind of guardian angel for him. Slowly, I helped him free himself from the chains that held him back. Our relationship wasn't just physical. It was liberating. Through me, he rediscovered his voice and began to claim his own identity. It's important that I bring this up because when I met Ryan, he had speech problems, and it shows me how psychological issues can be destructive to the body. Today, there must be thousands of people suffering in relationships, unhappy, and sometimes it's not obvious, but the body suffers in silence until an illness breaks out, and if you're still in a relationship that's hurting you, there's no point in going to the doctor. In this context, I remember that Ryan told me that the person who opened her eyes was a urologist. She was 33 years old and went to every doctor you could imagine to try to find out what was causing her voice loss. She underwent several tests and everyone said that you were fine, nothing wrong with your body, see a psychologist. However, it was the urologist who treated him as a friend and said that you are happy in your marriage. Ryan was taken by surprise. No one had ever asked him that question, not even him. However, he listened very carefully to the doctor, and the doctor talked about his current phase, what he had been through in his marriage, that he had separated, decided to take some time off to rediscover himself, and it was like a light at the end of the tunnel for Ryan and allowed him to give himself to me. Eventually, the divorce happened. I saw firsthand how devastating and prolonged a separation can be. It took Ryan's ex-wife more than a year to accept it, doing everything in her power to bring him down, wanting him to come back to her with nothing, crawling on his knees. She painted herself as the victim, blaming Ryan entirely for the breakdown of the marriage without ever acknowledging her own part in it. But during that time, Ryan and I built something real. Our relationship was founded on open communication, mutual respect, and emotional support, things neither of us had ever experienced before. To me, true partnership comes from meaningful dialogue, caring for one another, and being fully present. There were times when I feared it wouldn't work out. During his divorce proceedings, Ryan tried to get back together with his ex-wife twice, not because he wanted to, but because of religious pressure and what his family expected of him. It was heartbreaking for me, but I understood the inner conflict he was going through. It wasn't until Ryan finally saw what was best for him that he fully committed to us. That's when I truly had him, 100% mine, and we were able to move forward, building a life together. There were several incredible moments, and one of them was when he was undergoing Chinese medicine therapy and I started to accompany him. One beautiful night, while waiting to be seen, Ryan always caught me by surprise and called me to the bathroom. When I went to see what was happening, before I could say anything, he was already possessing me like a lion. Jesus, my God. When I remember, I still can't breathe. We finished and went back to the living room. After about 5 minutes, Ryan was called and I was thinking, thank God I'm crazy, in love, possessed by this man. If he leaves me or cheats on me, I'll finish him off. I gave myself to him like I've never given myself to any other man. However, the first 4 years have passed and let me tell you, they've been full of twists and turns. Living together is always a challenge. My dream was to marry Ryan, but the reality of adapting to a life together has brought its own struggles. Sometimes we clash, usually because of our differences. But we also always find a way to work things out, usually in bed, as cliché as it sounds. My advice: never go to bed angry. It's a terrible feeling to wake up still carrying the weight of the night before. Here's a tip for those who find themselves in similar situations. If you've had a big fight, don't run off to separate corners of the house. Sit down together and work it out. And if you can, make up in the best way possible by reconnecting intimately. It may seem difficult at first, but keep trying. Eventually it will work out. During our adjustment period, Ryan was under a lot of financial pressure. He always prided himself on being the provider, making sure everything was taken care of and paid on time. But I admit I didn't make things easy. I'm impulsive and I love to eat, so I often went out of my way to spoil him. However, as much as I tried to show him love, I didn't always contribute in practical ways. When I saw him sell valuable items, things that meant a lot to him so he could invest in our home, buy a new car, and take me on my first trip abroad, I realized the toll it was taking on him. I didn't help him much financially during this time. Instead, I found myself constantly asking him for money, as if he were my personal bank. I spent recklessly, paying bills but not really knowing where the rest of the money went. I look back now and wonder what exactly I was doing with all of that, but I can't even remember. Through it all, Ryan stood by me, always supporting me, never blaming me. Through it all, we built something beautiful together. But our journey wasn't without its challenges. Marriage, cohabitation, and the merging of two lives takes work. Hard work. But I wouldn't trade any of it. Ryan and I grew up together, facing our struggles and always coming out stronger. Today, we are a testament to what true love can overcome. There came a time when Ryan finally had enough. He stopped simply giving me money and started lending it to me, keeping track of every loan. I've never talked about it because, frankly, I'm embarrassed. I don't know how I'll ever pay it back, but I will. It's a hard truth. Financial stress can ruin any relationship. Ryan was everything to me and my daughter, but the weight of his financial responsibilities began to create a distance between us. We began to argue more frequently, and even our once sacred intimate life, which we cherished 3 or 4 times a week, began to fade. Although I still felt financially secure because of Ryan, the emotional distance between us grew, and I found myself seeking comfort elsewhere. At work, I began to grow closer to Oliver. He was tall, even taller than Ryan, and had a presence that many women in the office admired. Some of my coworkers would flirt with him, playfully teasing him. He was the center of attention. We worked together, and while Oliver was serious and focused, often with his headphones on, buried in bill reviews, I needed his help to learn. I tried to break through his withdrawn nature, and though he remained distant at first, we eventually grew closer. Some of our coworkers would joke, warning me to be careful because my husband was a jealous man, and I would laugh it off. But as I spent more time with Oliver, things between us began to change. It wasn't long before we started having lunch together. At first, it seemed innocent, so I didn't feel the need to mention it to Ryan. The first time Ryan met Oliver, he was jealous, saying, "So, that's your coworker? He looks like Clark Kent." I brushed it off with, "If you like that," but his jealousy led to arguments. To avoid further conflict, I began to hide things, denying my interactions with Oliver to keep the peace at home. Eventually, Ryan stopped asking about him, and I thought I was in the clear. But one night, after I fell asleep, Ryan's suspicions resurfaced. He grabbed my phone and read my corporate team's messages. I hadn't deleted anything because I didn't think it was a big deal, but Ryan saw it all. He saw how I spoke to Oliver with care, patience, and affection, the way I used to speak to Ryan. He read when I called Oliver beautiful and amazing, How I told him I cared about him and that I was always there for him. It was all there. Lunch plans, conversations that should have been innocent but didn't seem like anything to Ryan. That night was one of the hardest of my life. I woke up to find Ryan in the next room, sobbing. I had never heard him cry like that. As I approached, he turned to me, his eyes filled with pain, and said, "It's over, Selena. Explain this to me. Why are you treating him like this? Not even your own brother gets this level of care from you. You're treating this man the way I treat you. Don't give me excuses. No one talks like that unless they're emotionally involved." My world came crashing down in that moment. I was groggy from sleep, but suddenly I woke up in a panic. Here was my husband, devastated because of me. I tried to explain that it wasn't what he thought, that Oliver had never disrespected me or done anything to me. I was just trying to learn from him, maybe help him with his own struggles. But it didn't matter. Ryan was convinced that he had been emotionally betrayed, that it wasn't a physical affair but something deeper. To him, emotional involvement was just as painful as physical infidelity. The only thing that saved our relationship was Ryan's love for me. Over time, I worked to rebuild his trust, though it took years. For over 2 years, he carried this doubt in his heart, wondering if he could ever truly trust me again. But slowly we healed. Now we are stronger than before, deeply in love despite the challenges of daily life. I've learned that love can come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes you have to fighting hard to protect yourself. My story is a testament that even when things seem broken beyond repair, true love can find a way to mend what was broken. Love forgives and understands, but it is a two-way street. Both partners must give equally, or the relationship will wither. Without communication, a relationship cannot survive. And without courage, we cannot make the right choices to protect it. Looking back, I am grateful for having Ryan. I believe we were made for each other, and I hope we will continue to write our story hand in hand for the rest of our lives. This is my happy ending with my beloved Ryan by my side.